Hello everyone, welcome back to the library. I'm Laura. Today I'm going to be doing my winter book haul. I've kind of been on a book no buy for the last month, 3 weeks. It's been a little while. I usually would go to the used bookstore once a week just to see what was on the clearance, in the clearance section, which is what most of these books I got are. But not this coming weekend, but the weekend after. Half Price Books is having a huge book sale where I live, and I went last year and got a bunch of books, and I'm gonna go again this year. I'm so excited. I think nothing is over $3. Like even really big books, like $3 is the most that anything is, and they have fiction, nonfiction, they have movies and everything. So I'm really excited for that. But I thought I would just talk about some of the books I bought this winter. So these are probably from around December, end of December to the beginning of March. So anyways, let me just go ahead and show you all the books that I got this winter. The first book that I picked up is Water for Elephants by Sarah Gruen. And I remember seeing the trailer or the commercials for the movie when I was younger. I don't remember what year the movie came out, but I was really interested in the movie and didn't even know it was a book. I never saw the movie, but it actually has pretty good reviews online, so hopefully I can read it or watch it eventually after I read this book. But Water for Elephants is about a boy, young man named Jacob who has recently been orphaned, and he ends up jumping on this train. And it turns out that the people on this train are from a circus, and this circus is kind of a second-rate circus that is trying to survive in the Great Depression. And Jacob was working on his veterinary degree, so he is put in charge of taking care of the animals. And while he is doing this, he meets the star of the Equestrian Act, and her name is Marlena, and he ends up falling in love with her, but she's already married to the animal trainer, who is kind of a twisted but charismatic man, and his name is August. Jacob also meets a seemingly untrainable elephant whose name is Rosie, but he discovers a way to reach her. So this book is just kind of about love between these two people and love between animals. This has over 4 stars on Goodreads, so I will be really excited to get to this once I can. It just sounds like a really, really great book that's going to make me cry like a baby, probably. The next book that I picked up was Life of Pi, and this is by Yann Martel. And I have seen this movie, and this is about a little boy named Pi Patel, and his family owns a zoo in, I believe, India, and his family decides to immigrate from India to North America with their animals. But while they're on this Japanese ship, it sinks. And Pi is, I believe, the only survivor. But he survives, and he is on this boat with a hyena, an orangutan, a wounded zebra, and a 450-pound Bengal tiger. So pretty much it's just about him surviving, using his wits to survive being on this boat with this huge carnivorous animal that wants to eat him, and just to survive, mentally and physically in other ways. I really, really enjoyed the movie, and I've only heard great things about the book. I love survival stories. They're one of my favorites. I really like isolation stories where characters are on their own, and I am ready to read this. It seems like it's going to be really, really great. Next, I picked up Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I have never read any Jane Austen in my life. I never had to read it in school, and even in college, I never had to pick it up, and I just never did. Um, and it's funny, this wasn't ever one that my mom was like, "Oh, you have to read," and my mom's a huge reader. Um, but it's Pride and Prejudice. Most people know what it's about. But it's kind of funny. I really don't know that much besides Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy. And I kind of want to keep it that way. I mean, this book has been around so long and it's such a classic, but I don't really know much of what happens in it. And I basically bought this so that I could stop putting off reading it because I would just be like, oh, don't own it. Oh, whoops, it's not at the library. But now own it, and it is on my TBR for this year. I really do mean to get to it eventually, so I hope that I can. So there's that. The next book that I picked up is 40 Acres by Dwayne Alexander Smith. And I didn't know anything about this book until I heard about it from Rincey Reads. That's her channel name. This book is about this place called the 40 Acres. This is a place that is in a remote corner of America, and it's kind of a last vestige of antebellum America. And here, black men are masters and white men are property. Um, so, that's a interesting twist on slavery, and I believe it's in modern times. I could be completely wrong, but I believe so. Um, but basically, this young black lawyer named Martin Gray is invited to the 40 Acres. And basically, they invite him there, and they're like, can't have your wife, can't have your phone, can't have any, contact with the outside world. And they basically are like, if you come here, you're going to get richer, you're going to be, more successful. And so he gets there and he finds out what's actually going on there, and he's like, no, I'm, not cool with this. But he can't talk about it because, they basically are like, if you try to stop us, anyone who tries to stop us will be killed. Yeah. So he basically has to find a way out of the 40 acres with his life. And this just sounds so interesting and awesome. I haven't heard about it from anyone else, I don't think, but Rincey just seems to read some really great books, and so I am super excited about this. The whole 40 acres thing, no technology, no contact, kind of secretive, reminds me of like the whole Bohemian Grove, secret society thing where politics and rich people go, into the woods once a year and celebrate something. There's talk of like that people have been sacrificed. I really doubt that's true, but who knows? I mean, people like George W. Bush, I don't know who else, like Bill Clinton, lots of old, rich white men have been seen here. So this just kind of reminds me of that, and it just sounds really awesome. I actually kind of want to get to this soon because it just sounds really good. Yeah, so I'm really excited about this, and I'm really excited I found it in the clearance section. Next, I found a Stephen King book in the clearance section, which is not normal, but I found The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon by Stephen King. And this is actually funny because I have been wanting to read this book for a while. I tried to listen to the audiobook, but didn't really like it. I'm very picky about narrators. So, this book is about a girl, I believe, named Trisha, and I believe that's her name. Yes, and she goes into the woods for this hike with her mother and brother, and her mother is recently divorced, and they're just fighting the entire time. So Trisha just tries to get away from them, and she ends up getting lost. And it just gets worse and worse, especially as night is going on. And to calm herself down, she tunes into, I believe, Red Sox games to listen on her Walkman because she loves number 36, Tom Gordon. And as the signal starts fading and she can't hear it anymore, she starts to just imagine that Tom Gordon is actually with her. So this is kind of another survival story. Like I said, I love, love, love survival stories, and that's why I've been really excited to read this. So it just kind of deals with like physical survival, mental survival, and it's actually pretty short for a Stephen King book. Let's see. I mean, it looks like it's just a little over 200 pages, so this should be an easy King read. And I was super excited to find this in the clearance section too. Next, and I have been waiting for this book to be on clearance before buying it, but I got East of Eden by John Steinbeck, and I'm super excited about this because I've been wanting it. I love these pages. I used to make fun of people who were like, ugh, floppy paperbacks, but I mean, it's kind of great. It's not the best condition, but it's actually pretty good. East of Eden is considered, one of Steinbeck's greatest, if not his greatest work. I've never read any Steinbeck, actually. I really need to do that. I need to read some of his shorter stuff, probably even before I get to this. But East of Eden is kind of a family saga, and it's about um, the intertwined lives of two families, the Trasks and the Hamiltons. And it kind of has an Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel thing to it. Basically, there are two sons that are born, and they're twins, but one, ends up being very successful, and the other kind of fails at what he's doing. I don't know much besides what it says on the inner flap, but I was, like I said, very excited that I think I got this for like $3. It's a huge book, but yeah, I don't know when I'll read this, but I'm just really, really happy that I found it. I was also really excited to find Peace Like a River by Leif Inger, and this book is the favorite book of Katie from Life Between Words. She has talked about this book so many times on her channel, and I've looked for this book a lot and hadn't been able to find it, but I found it finally in the clearance section. I was just looking through and I was like, oh my gosh, and picked it up. So this is basically about a boy named Reuben Land, and he lives in the Midwest, and he, along with his sister and father, have to go basically trek across the country to search for his outlaw older brother, who's been controversially charged with murder. This book apparently has some awesome Christian undertones in it, so I'm just actually really excited to read this. It sounds right up my alley, and I'm just excited to find this and hopefully eventually read it and see if it lives up to Katie's hype of it. Next, I found the first two books in the Maisie Dobbs series. So the first one, Maisie Dobbs, and the second one, Birds of a Feather. And I heard about these books somewhere. I don't remember where, actually. I have no idea. But anyways, Maisie Dobbs is basically, she was the daughter of a struggling greengrocer, but she goes to work for a wealthy London aristocrats as a maid. She ends up going to Cambridge and serves as a nurse during the Great War. And then after that, she ends up opening her own detective agency. And in the first one, it seems like a seemingly open and shut infidelity case, but it gets deeper and darker. Like I said, I don't remember who I heard about this from, but I've heard really good things about it. It's not very long. I just love like female detectives, especially because this is in like the 20s, so that's awesome. So I'm really excited about both of these. Next, I found the book Snow Falling on Cedars I also don't quite remember where I heard about this from. It might have been on Ann Bogel's podcast, but I could be completely wrong. I could have heard about it somewhere else. Um, I kind of had forgotten what this was even about when I picked it up. I just remembered I liked what it was about when I heard about it. And so I was just really, really happy to find this in pretty good condition on clearance. But this is about a place called San Pedro Island, which is north of the Puget Sound. And it's very, very isolated. And in 1954, a local fisherman is found drowned, and a Japanese American named Kabuo Miyamoto is charged with his murder. And basically, um, what's at stake is more than his guilt. Um, Basically, what this says is, for on San Pedro, memory grows as thickly as cedar trees in the fields of ripe strawberries. Memories of a charmed love affair between a white boy and the Japanese girl who grew up to become Kabuo's wife. Memories of land desired, paid for, and lost. Above all, San Pedro is haunted by the memory of what happened to its Japanese residents during World War II, when an entire community was sent into exile while its neighbors watched. So, like I said, I'm not completely sure what's going to go on in this book, but it sounds, gripping. It sounds wonderful and tragic. I I've said this before, but I love tragic books. I love to be sad when I read a book, and that's horrible. Maybe I really like bittersweet books. I should say. I should put it that way. But this sounds great. I'm so glad I found it, and I'm ready to read it. And lastly, I found The Invention of Wings by Sue Monk Kidd. And I had heard about this book only a few months ago from April, and from the channel Getting Hugga With It. And she absolutely loved this book. And this is about a little girl in the South named Sarah, and she is given a slave for her 11th birthday, and the slave's name is Hetty. And basically, she doesn't believe in slavery. She doesn't want a slave, but Sarah and Hetty become best friends, and this just kind of follows them throughout their lives. Like I said, I don't know much more about this, but April loved it. I'm pretty sure I'll love it because I trust what she says she likes, and I have similar tastes in reading. So I am excited about this. Really hope I get to read it soon because it's really short, and it just sounds like a great story. So those are all the books that I picked up this past winter. I found some really wonderful ones. And I'm very excited for all of these and to get to read them eventually. I love that I'm just growing my little library. My mom and my fiance, I think, probably, and my dad, they all think I'm a little insane, but that's okay. It's my parents' fault anyway that I love reading this much. So like I said, all the books I picked up. Let me know if you've read any of these and if you've loved them or how you felt about them. Let me know what the latest book you picked up was, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.